Hi there, and welcome to the Gnostic Rebellion on the Gnostic Church of Light Congregational Network. Today we're speaking with Kerry Blaser, author of My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain, who says proudly, I am innocence wrapped in valor. I wield my sword of compassion, cutting open emotional wounds to reveal hidden wisdom within. We find through her yet another image of the Babylon mythos unfolding in our culture. We'll introduce her in a moment, but first, in the description immediately below this link, below the video, you'll find a donate link that not only supports this program, but also supports the maintenance of our historic building and congregation. We're the first fully owned and operating Gnostic church on the continents of the Americas, and your donations are tax deductible. While you do that, we'll extend this short blessing. May wisdom and divine providence increase the unique genius of our congregation and bring us to health, wealth, and increase of days. Okay, femininity is fierce, but the patriarchy created women who were only allowed to be sweet. They weren't supported in their role of rupturing emotions to repair emotions, equal wound to wisdom process. They wanted to control and suppress femininity, so they institutionalized femininity in the church. Kerry Blaser presents her story or her story. Welcome to the Gnostic Rebellion, Kerry, and please introduce yourself in this process of rupturing and repairing emotions.
Hi, I'm Kerry Blaser. My legal name is Kerry Bazaglo. My ex-husband's Israeli, so I have three kids who are half Israeli. We met in Tibet. But let me start at the beginning. I was born in Arizona. I moved to France and Switzerland for a couple years, and then when I was 5, we moved to Southern California. My parents quickly got divorced, and I had quite a traumatic childhood. My mom being an alcoholic, my dad being a workaholic. I went on to get an undergraduate degree in Chinese and religious studies. I went east for religion, and that's why I was in China and then Tibet, and I met my ex-husband there in 1993. We got married in 95, and I got my master's degree in the same Chinese religious studies in 97. And then we had three kids. But after 10 years, we had a lot of problems, and I didn't know how to be healthy in my feminine lane. I had not explored my feminine pain yet. I still, had not healed. And so all of that whole process of exploring my pain started about 10 years ago on my 45th birthday, and that's where my book starts. So
Huh.
that's me.
Okay, so you describe a difference between the creative process for men and women, claiming that women are inherently creative and men are institutionally or hierarchically, even toxically creative. Can you elaborate on this?
I didn't say that men were toxically created. So during my first enlightenment experience in March of 2024, um, I I didn't know what enlightenment was, even though I have a master's degree in East Asian religious studies. I'd lived in Chinese Buddhist monasteries. I didn't know that enlightenment is an emotion that every soul is capable of. I'm like, whoa, this is different. Anyway, during the first experience, I I was guided to ask the universe, well, what do I need to learn? And so first I was shown that all the first responders, have problems. And two of the men that I attracted into my life that are in my book are fire academy instructors. So I had been kind of focused on first responders. I'm like, oh yeah, they have a lot of mental health challenges. I'm like, oh, then the family. I'm like, oh, well, we all family's broken. Okay, relationships. I'm like, okay, just take me back to the beginning. Like there was God and then what? Because from my perspective, everything was broken. And that's when I started kind of analyzing, well, we ascribe creation to a masculine God, in general in the West. And I was like, well, creation is feminine, and so I'm like, what if we make, the feminine, the divine feminine equal to divine masculine, where feminine is creation, because women, we have wombs, and the right brain is the creation, the forgiveness, the compassion, that's all the femininity. And then the men, are left brain, the logic, the hierarchy, the strategy, and like, well, that's left brain. And then if we model that in the family, can we heal the family? Like, if we get back to the beginning and ask ourselves, what is a healthy woman and what is a healthy man, and build from there, like, that seemed to me to be the problem. And so that's why I've kind of gotten into all of this, creation for women, and orchestration or execution for men. Like, to execute means to plan, but also means to kill. And men deal with death, women deal with birth. So this is where I guess all of this kind of talking came out of me, and then I published my book like a year later. So
Okay. So, do you admit to the idea that both men and women are both left and right-brained, or
mhm.
do you hold something hard there? I'm trying to get at your philosophy, what you're
Oh,
trying to
so I
say.
guess I'm getting at what creates hormonal balance, and I'm leaning on Dr. John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, right? And he's done a lot of research on hormones and relationships. And when women, as women, we need to spend about 90% of our day in our right brain to have balanced hormones. Okay, so it's not just what do I do whatever I want and then my body's fine. No, I have a feminine soul and a female body, and so I need to take care of my female body. And then men need to spend about 90% of their day in their left brain to create enough testosterone. Like, what builds healthy testosterone in a man and is cortisol reducing to a man is different than a woman. Like, chopping wood is great for men to reduce cortisol and to build testosterone, but it doesn't balance women's hormones in the same way. If women want to reduce their cortisol and kind of balance their feminine hormones, which are more complex than testosterone, then they gentle walking and gentle yoga works for them. So kind of admitting, I had to really admit to myself, because I was born in 1970. I was raised during I don't need a man. Like, that was the whole, in society. Get a job, Carrie. You don't need a man. You can work full time and take care of your
Well, I
kids
mean,
and
that sets
husband
up
and
my question, certainly.
mhm.
Um, if a woman is spending 90% of her day in what you call her right brain, because really that doesn't exist, actual the brains always work integratedly. But if she's spending most of her day in a creative process, brings up really two big questions. First of all, how can she function in the world? And second, what about the women who, are, executives?
Well, so I mean, here's the challenge. I mean, so what is right brain? Right brain means like our forgiveness, our compassion, our nurturing, our intuition, our creation, our creativity. Like, I wrote a book and I'm in my right brain 90% of the day. That allows me to process all of my emotions because I'm the emotional center of the family. And then I naturally help all of my family members because they're so closely connected to me. And that helps everyone else. So here's the thing, when we act like there is not a feminine lane in society and not a masculine lane in society, then we get into this conundrum where we have women, there's like huge issues of women having hormonal issues, they can't get pregnant, we're at population collapse. And if a woman wants to be an executive, I mean, she can go be an executive, but what does it take to be an executive? It takes 50, 60 hour work weeks. Well, men's hormones reset every 24 hours, so men are physiologically designed for a 40, 60, 70 hour work week, but as a woman, my hormones reset every 28 days.
But you
So
see,
some,
now
but hang on a second. Well, hang on a
I'm a
second.
church leader and I'm a
But
nurturer.
well, okay, we could talk
And
about
yet,
that. And
my masculinity isn't offset by that. I mean, I'm an older man now, so I'm more girl than man these days. But that's just being silly. I'm less physical. I couldn't chop wood today. I would probably hurt myself seriously, even if I didn't hit my leg with the axe. Uh, um, but I think that first of all, we have uh, differences, and I'm excited about your sense of biological difference. I think we have to honor the biological difference between the two,
Hmm.
and we have to respect some functionality in that. But we also have to respect the idea that some women are more feminine and some are more butch. Some men are more butch and some men are more feminine. And that really rides a great diversity. So I wonder, are we not talking about gender roles here?
Well, I mean, n- I don't want to get into gender. It opens up a whole other ball of wax. But when we talk about, sex, that there are men and there are women. And one challenge we're having in society right now is you ask, well, what do men do? Men provide and protect. Well, that's the masculine lane. So everybody like pretty much agrees on that. But then you ask, well, what do women do? Oh, women can do whatever they want. I'm like, well, hang on a second. If half the population has to stay over here to fill up like that half of the balance, then why is it acceptable to tell women they can be in the masculine lane, which would then push some men over into the feminine lane because we need a 50-50 between men and women? Like, why aren't we holding women to the feminine account when we hold men to their masculine account? And
Well,
I
there
think
is
this is
Mr.
where we have a lot of
Mom. There
problems
are
because we don't,
relationships
but
and
hang on,
marriages and
please don't,
families
can I,
where,
if you're going to cut me off, we can't have a conversation. Okay. So if we're not going to hold women, this is the challenge. But this is when we taught women, oh, you don't need a man. We're still figuring out what is healthy femininity and what is healthy masculinity. So this
well,
is the
well,
important
I
conversation.
understand that entirely. Um, but if you're going to, um, well, you're creating lanes that, bring back, well, first beg the question. Uh, do we put women back in the kitchen, barefoot and
Why is it
pregnant then? Are
back?
they
Why
home?
is it back?
Um,
Like,
because if you have to be there. I mean, I remember my mother needing my father's permission to open a checking account. All the women that couldn't, inherit their husband's property after, raising his kids for years. Um, so, I think that's a step the world itself is afraid of. At least the more liberal world, shall we say.
sure, but then we have to ask ourselves, why are we at population collapse? Why are we unable to get pregnant? Why are we like the breakdown of the nuclear family so profound that you have 8, 9-year-olds going to school all the time now, and the whole class will make sexual sounds. And so teachers are quitting left, right, and center. Why do half of children do not have a secure attachment to self, meaning they're mentally ill? So
You're
this is the
making
thing.
a
But
wonderful
hang on a
argument
but this
for
is the thing. If we want a stable society, we have to ask ourselves what creates a stable society. I mean, I voted liberal my whole life until a year and a half ago. I still live on the beach in Southern California. Like, I lived that whole lifestyle. But what did that lifestyle give me? It gave me a suicide attempt, 4 to 7 migraines per week, failed marriage, failed relationship with my kids. When we don't honor what the feminine is, that the feminine is here to be the spiritual center, to be source energy, to be the emotional center of the family, rooting us in healthy emotional
I,
intimacy,
I,
which
I,
is where
I
mental
I
health is
couldn't
created
agree
and
with you more.
sustained.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Right.
Um,
But hey,
but
but then when you ask the question, what go back to the kitchen? It's not back anywhere. I understand that things weren't perfect in the past. That's how we grow and how we got to today. But when we acknowledge and we value that a woman, a mother, staying at home, taking care of the husband and the family and herself and teaching self-care, this is what we need in society to have a healthy society. Women need to go home.
but now let's go back to the 1950s and the early 1960s, and let's think about Mother's Little Helpers. Let's think about the barbiturates and stuff in the medicine cabinet and all these women that supposedly had it great. They didn't have to hustle for a job. They were home. The husband provided for them well. They were able to raise strong kids in in a happy home, and they were in complete depression because they had no contact with the world. It was the man's function to have the contact with the world. She just worried about the house. And dad was an idiot when he came home because he didn't have any idea of what the hell was going on in the house. And everybody in the house was an idiot to dad because, they have no idea what the hell's going on in the world. And so there was a reason to push against that. I think
Sure.
for the psychic health of women that they had, the ability to be in the world, and I think that they are in the world has been a boon to our culture.
Well, this is the thing. I'm not advocating to go backwards at all. Like
Okay.
this is, I'm not saying we go backwards, but let's acknowledge what is a feminine woman and what is a healthy masculine man. And we still, in the history of our human race, we've never been able to bring this about before. Why? Because in 2012, the Mayans calendar ended. And everyone thought, oh, it's the end of times, it's 2012. No, it was the end of a time cycle. And what time cycle started is the time for self healing. So I'm the reincarnation of Mary Magdalene. I'm here to restore the divine feminine next to the divine masculine and have this conversation. What is a healthy feminine woman and what is a healthy masculine man? And how can we build a healthy society out of that? Because, we went all the way down to trans kids. Like, we don't get any more. We don't know what a man and a woman is if we can't even tell a
Well, yeah, I
kid,
think,
like
I
we had to
think,
go bound to our our deepest depths of our fear, guilt, and shame
yeah.
in order to be able to rise to our highest heights and expand our emotional range to include enlightenment, which is one of the things I'm here to do. So, I am in no way advocating that we go backwards, but in going forwards, I will advocate that I don't think women should vote, and here's why. Because when women vote, they vote against their husbands and they vote emotionally, and that destroys the family. So I'm a proponent of everything that supports a healthy nuclear family, and we're going to have a lot of digging and a lot of learning to do. But if we think that it's appropriate for an 18-year-old daughter who, doesn't own any property, doesn't has never bought a house, has barely had a job, knows more than her 40-year-old dad about the government, and that we're just shooting ourselves in the foot by tearing apart the nuclear family. And I think we need to put the nuclear
Well,
family back
I mean,
together.
let's look at the nuclear family model. How many how many situations are there in our society, or what percentage of our society couldn't get into a nuclear family, one way or another? I
What
mean,
do you
uh,
mean?
uh, spouses that die early in childhood, you know, others, social issues and single pregnancies and things like that. Are you suggesting that we follow? The conservative Christian agenda?
Well, okay, so one of the things that came through during a meditation was that monogamy is the path to enlightenment. And now we have tons of scientific evidence showing that casual sex leads women to their demise. And if women are traumatized and not processing their emotions, they're the emotional center, then men are super messed up. So casual sex, the birth control pill, abortion, all of these things hurt women. And when you hurt women emotionally and physically, you also hurt men. So we have to ask ourselves, what do we need to change about society to create a healthy nuclear family? And there's a lot that's going to have to change.
You would have to make abortion illegal. You would have to forbid sex outside of marriage. But I think when we look at such an issue as casual sex and the libertine capacity that the pill delivered to women, um, I think when you look at that, if you get into a situation where you are having casual sex, male or female, where you're not forming relationships.
No.
And people have to learn how to form relationships. Now,
Right.
if somebody was to develop thinking like a young person, you're still exploring, you don't know who you're going to meet yet. You're in casual relationships, you're moving in and out, but then you start to develop more serious relationships. And that's usually a healthy path until you get to where you want to be. And hopefully you get to somebody that you can love without divorce. But we know 50% of marriages end in divorce in this country,
Right.
in the industrialized world, really. So, should we make divorce illegal now?
Well, I think, there's a lot of changes that are going to have to take place. And I'm not saying that we're going to, make casual sex illegal. I think that we have to educate people on the facts. We kind of opened up sex and be like, oh, well, just, it doesn't matter. Men and women are the same. No, they're not the same. The hormones that women create during sex, the expectations, the trauma, it's totally different. Now, when men can go longer with casual sex, but it also hurts them. Like when we kiss someone, for 10 seconds, we swap 80 million microbiome. And so this whole idea that you need to date to figure out who to marry, I think we've just this whole casual dating thing is wrong as well. We're just hurting ourselves telling us that there's anything casual about dating, sex, or relationships.
So we
And
should
so
go
like
back to arranged marriages?
I'm not saying go back to arranged marriages, but our souls plan our lives based upon our wounds for self-improvement opportunities. And what did come through to me during my second like massive enlightenment experience is how souls are created. And so we used to be like one soul that housed both feminine and masculine qualities, but through our expansion work, over time, in order to see ourselves, then we split into two souls. And how did that happen? So the intent to create the masculine soul created the feminine soul, and the feminine soul tears out half her heart chakra to create a masculine soul. So each masculine soul and each feminine soul has the perfect match. But we haven't come to the point as a globe to accept that we're all souls having a human experience. And that, so then if we accept, okay, we're all souls having a human experience, oh, then I have my, as divine feminine, I have my divine masculine partner. And we're ready to kind of acknowledge that as souls, we want to be monogamous. We've tried all these other things. But when we're not with the one, then we're leading ourselves to our demise. And right now we're
So,
coming out of it. So I
correct
see down the road, I don't know how long it'll take, but human beings, because souls are monogamous, then will naturally go in that direction.
correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying that there is a natural wholesome state for a man, there is a natural wholesome state for women.
Mhm.
Um, and it's very biologically oriented in that regard. Um, can you define what this man, can you articulate on this male and female model, even just the female model? Can you articulate on what that woman is? Because you seem to be capturing it all in a moral structure, which is okay. I'm not
What do you mean?
complaining about that. But um, remember, morality is practicum. That's what morality is. We create moral. The reason why it's immoral to kill is because if we all got mad at each other and just shot each other, there'd be no society, right? So that's how morality gets generated. Um, if there's very specific models for a woman to be a woman and a man to be a man, and to experience the fullness of themselves in a healthy and wholesome way. You seem to respond to that all with, moral fixtures, but you haven't defined yet what that full male or female is.
I guess, I'm not here to tell everyone what a full female or male is. Women are the emotional center. And so women give birth as the emotional center. Our nervous systems are far more robust than men's nervous system. So we're physiologically designed to channel source energy to be
To
the
be
channel in the
nurturing.
house.
to
Yeah,
be
and
nurturing.
nurturing and to be more in our right brain than our left brain. Of course, I mean, I had a job for 20 years. I have my own condo. Like, I can execute and plan and strategize, but does that make me a healthy feminine woman? Does that balance my hormones? Does that relieve my stress? No. When I'm over here, my right brain all day long, that relieves my stress. Now my creation is different than, like, I have two daughters. One's a photographer and one's a florist. Okay. And what do I create? Like, I wrote a book. So it doesn't mean that every woman has to be a writer, but create what, some women sew, some women create this and create that. When we encourage women to be over here, not saying that, oh, you can't go to college. No, if you want to go to college, go. But educate her that if you go to college and you start making 100 grand a year, then you're only going to want a man who makes more than you. So you have just kind of taken yourself out of the dating pool, out of, like, oh, left yourself with like 10% of men. But okay,
There's
but let's
something profound
educate
in
women.
that. I gotta agree. There is something profound in that because some women get mad at their men when they're the real breadwinner.
They
Um,
do, and that's the divorce rate goes up to 90%. So here's the thing: we've kind of thrown, like, casual sex, the abortion, the pill, a lot of generational trauma. Go figure out relationships. We're not arranged marriage anymore. And then we had the kind of conundrums that we've had, but we're definitely coming out of it. Like, the soft girl era started about 2 or 3 years ago. The birth rate last year in America went up for non-Hispanic white people in the first time in like 30, 40 years. Like, so, femininity is coming back. And we're not going to lose the planet for humans, but this is the question we're going to have to ask ourselves. What does it mean to be a healthy feminine woman? And we need to answer that question. And I rely on a Cherokee proverb, like, that's my dedication in my book. It says that a woman's highest calling is to connect a man to his soul so he can unite with source. A man's highest calling is to protect a woman so she can walk the earth unharmed. Women do inside work, men do outside work. So mothers are physiologically designed to help the child learn how to regulate its own and calibrate its own nervous system. That's why she's about forgiveness and compassion and nurturing and
so when
mirroring
you
that
say
back to
inside
the
work,
child.
what do you mean?
That's soul level work. That is designed, not that
So
men
men
can't
don't do
engage.
that.
What?
Men don't do that.
What do you mean men don't do that?
Well, you say women do inside work, men do outside work. I
I'm
have a
talking in
pile of
general.
diaries from when I was a child for all the inside work that I've done. It stands a lot taller than I do.
Right. I mean, so what was your childhood like? Did you have a really healthy childhood, or did you have a traumatic
Um,
childhood?
I wouldn't say I had a healthy childhood. I don't know that anybody could have. I wouldn't say I had an unhealthy childhood. Okay, I had my issues and my situations, I think, like every single child has.
Like what?
Um, and I don't think there was anything unusual or abnormal, but I was a certain kind of person, and I'm a very internal person. I'm an artist. I create. I play piano. I teach piano. You know, I'm also, uh, you know, uh, um, a student of religion, running a church that I founded. So I have a lot of internal stuff, and I'm very nurturing to my congregation. Now,
So are
as far as
rabbis and so are
actuating in the
pastors.
world, I think my church is that effort. And
So,
so that and I tell people they have to do both. We need both. How do you respond to that?
well, here's the thing. I mean, the way I see, I'm a religious studies scholar. I went to UCSB, right? Like, I'm a nerd, full nerd. And so when I started, like, accepting last year that I was the reincarnation of Mary Magdalene, like all the signs and synchronicities, which is, like, profound, I started looking into the history of Christianity. And I had to, look at, like, early Christianity and the Nag Hammadi texts, and what happened to Jesus and Mary. I've lived in Israel. My ex is Israeli. So I kind of looked at all those things, and in Judaism as well. And Christianity, to me, it seems like institutionalized femininity. Like, why am I going to a church run by men to learn about forgiveness, compassion, and nurturing? Those are all right brain activities. Why were women's voices silenced? So, and then why can I
Oh, I
pay to
couldn't
go
agree with you more. Yeah.
So why did I pay to go and confess my sins to a man? Like, if we take women out of the equation and you created the church, now top tier men with as many women as they want, and all the evils that they do, and heaven someplace else, with which permits hell to be on earth, from one perspective, then they can go pay money at the church to confess their sins, get forgiveness, and they can just bypass the wife altogether. So I see church as a bypass of like institutionalized femininity by men, and I think it's a problem. Women by nature, we are the ones that connect people to their souls. Not that men can't do it, it's just that we are designed for it. And what I had to learn from my childhood is that I had a traumatic childhood, which put me in my masculine. When men have a traumatic childhood, it puts them in their feminine. And with so many women in their masculine these days, and taking the birth control pill, which reduces our hormones, which reduces the men's hormones, men do not have healthy testosterone levels. Like, a 17-year-old today has the same testosterone as a 60-year-old like 80 years ago. So, we're doing something wrong for sure if our young men don't even have healthy testosterone levels. So,
Okay.
that's what I see.
Last thing here. You say that men and women respond differently to wisdom. What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I'd have to get the context of that. But wisdom is feminine, knowledge is masculine. And so what I had to learn, like, what is the patriarchy? And my son's an Eagle Scout, so I kind of, I get Boy Scout speaks to me, and I say like the patriarchy is like a Boy Scout camporee without any women, without any wisdom. That's when you blow up the fingers and things like that. And like dropping the nuclear bomb, I would say that's more like the patriarchy, no wisdom. How is killing all these civilians, like that level of killing, really going to end things? So I think that as we kind of embrace femininity, the wisdom's going to come out of us. It's going to infuse with the knowledge, and that balance is going to bring us all a lot more peace and happiness. I'm fingers crossed.
Wonderful. Well, listen, thank you for a great discussion. Um, we're going to include your links in our description to this program, and then of course we'll broadcast it throughout our network. I'll send you a copy of the link on our Rumble channel. If you would, please send me the links you want me to put at the bottom of the program that everybody would be, I hope, going to right now. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to say to our congregational network, thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate it. We hope you got something out of the program and enjoyed what you heard. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, take care and be well.